Kayla Vernava here on Radio Row. I'm joined now by Fox NFL analyst Daryl Johnston. Thanks for your time today. How you doing?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm doing well. We have a big game coming up and great quarterback play going to be in this Super Bowl with Tom Brady and Matt Ryan. But you being a former Cowboy, I want to talk to you about the Cowboys and about Dak Prescott, his season this year, and what do you think the future is looking like in Dallas right now?
Well, there was disappointment after the Green Bay game, but there's been a sense of excitement about the future. Now, Dallas was in a very similar situation back in 2007. They were the number one seed. They hosted the divisional round against the New York Giants and lost that game. I don't remember the sense of excitement for the following season in 2008 as I'm seeing for 2017 here after the Green Bay loss. So I think a lot of that speaks to having Dak Prescott, having Ezekiel Elliott, kind of just the suddenness of how successful they were after the injury to Tony Romo. So I expect them to have a 4-year window here that if they were not able to make it to at least one Super Bowl, there would be a very, very big sense of disappointment within the organization. Similar to what Seattle had when Russell Wilson was playing on a third-round contract. You know, Dak will be playing on a fourth-round contract. Ezekiel will be playing on a rookie contract. So they've got two key pieces to the puzzle, playing on rookie contracts. It's going to allow them to allocate assets to other areas of the team. In that 4-year window, it's imperative that they make it to at least one Super Bowl and give a shot, because 4 to 5 years from now, when those other contracts come up, there'll be a big reshuffling. There'll be probably some guys leaving that have been there for a while. They'll move into a secondary phase of this team moving forward.
The situation was highly unusual. I don't think anyone could have expected Dak Prescott to have the year that he did in his rookie season, to break out the way he did. Is there any reason to believe that, or to think that there might be some sort of drop-off going into his second year, some sort of sophomore slump or anything like that?
Yeah, I've heard people bring that up with Colin Kaepernick, with Robert Griffin III, you know, having that kind of breakout initial part of your career and then having it kind of go down the backside at the end. I've had the opportunity to meet Robert Griffin III. I've had the opportunity to meet Colin Kaepernick. Dak Prescott is a different personality than all of those. I think the challenges that he's faced in his life early on have created a sense of character and competition within him. This is a guy that elevated Mississippi State to a level where they eventually got to number one in the country in collegiate football. Without Dak Prescott, they don't get to do that. And as soon as Dak Prescott left, it's a program that's going back down the other side of that slope. He's a very unique guy that inspires people around him. And he understands he can't do this by himself, that it has to take everybody on this team. The offensive line protecting him, to have Ezekiel and all the skill players around him, to have a defense that's growing and maturing. He understands what his role is with the team. I don't anticipate any type of sophomore slump from him. I'd be shocked to see him come out and struggle a little bit next year, because I think he's always going to have that chip on his shoulder that he's not as good as some of the quarterbacks in the NFL, and he wants to be in that elite class.
So the future's looking bright in Dallas, and there's a lot of speculation as to what will be next for Tony Romo. Given your familiarity with the team, what do you think?
Well, I think they have to part ways. Now the question is, how do they part ways? Is the organization able to construct a trade for Tony that gets him to a place where he has an opportunity to compete for a championship before the end of his career? Obviously, they would prefer the AFC to keep him out of any type of rematch until the Super Bowl. But from the other side, as a team, am I willing to give up value for somebody that carries a high cap number with an injury history that's very recent? I don't know if the organization for the Cowboys will see the value in a trade if it's a 5th, 6th round pick. So do they have to end up releasing him and then making sure that he gets to the place that he wants to be? I think one of the places that would be a great fit for Tony Romo right now is the host city here for Super Bowl 51 in Houston. They've got the number one defense in the NFL regular season without J.J. Watt. They've got a 1,000-yard rusher in the backfield, a good offensive line, good players on the outside. They appear to be a quarterback away from being competitive and going to that next level in the AFC. And I think Tony fits that great. And also, you know, Tony's got some things in his personal life. He's got a young family. He's just built that forever house in Dallas, and you don't want to uproot. You don't want to be away from that too much. So the proximity of Houston to Dallas probably makes that a little bit more viable as well.
So right here where we're standing.
Yeah,
interesting,
exactly.
Very interesting. Now I want to ask you a question just about the game. It evolves. It's always evolving. And you being a former fullback, what do you think the future of that position is, as it's been being used less and less?
We were on the endangered species list about 4 years ago, but I think with the protection that the league has put out, we're starting to see our numbers increase again. So The best thing we can have happen is for guys like Kyle Juszczyk, Patrick DeMarco, and Aaron Ripkowski to come in and be viable contributors to their team. We need the college game to continue to push fullbacks up to the NFL level. I'm not a fan of a converted outside linebacker, a converted tight end. It's a very unique skill set and a mentality to play the fullback position. If you haven't done it your whole life, it's kind of hard. I know it seems like a meathead position where you just go run into people, but it's not. There's a mentality and a skill set. If the position is going to grow, that you have to have. I think Patrick DeMarco and Kyle Juszczyk as receivers on the outside kind of shows you that. Marcel Reese was out in Oakland. I just saw him recently somewhere. He's another guy that's dynamic when the formation breaks. And even James Devlin in New England. There was a play in that championship game against Pittsburgh that kind of shows what the fullback can do, and it's a heavy run formation, and Tom Brady sees something, changes formation, goes empty, splits his fullback out to the outside, and just throws a little hitch pass that he turns into a 12-yard gain. It's that simple, but 12 yards is 12 yards in the NFL. So if we can find the guys that can be good lead blockers but also leave the formation and be contributors, then the fullback position, I think, becomes one of those ones where you can create some matchups.
I'm glad you brought up Devlin, because that was what I was going to ask you about, because he does certainly contribute a lot to the Patriots. And I just want to say, you don't seem like a meathead to me. You've certainly had your fair share of success in the league.
Yeah, well, we get the monikers, cement heads, meatheads. Everybody looks at our position and thinks that it's just a physical position. It's not a thinking man spot, but the F position, the fullback position in a lot of offense is the one where you have to know formation, you have to know different things, you have to know all the elements in the passing game, because you could be at any one of those slots. So we're not just thumpers in the backfield trying to open up running holes for our tailbacks. We're also guys that like to leave formation and have a chance to get out in the open.
Well, Daryl, I really appreciate your analysis and your insight, but can you tell us what you're here on Radio Row for this week? Yeah,
I'm working with Quick Lane Tire and Auto Center, and it was a very, very easy relationship for me to come down here to Houston for Super Bowl 51 and talk about what Quick Lane is doing. Number one, from a maintenance standpoint, their business model is routine maintenance and service on every make and model of a car at over 800 locations across the country. I buy into that because I know how important that was for me. Maintaining my body, making sure my body was ready to go on Sunday. If you do all the little things in a maintenance model, you avoid the big mistakes, you avoid the big collisions, you avoid all the big problems that you can have. The other thing was trading in one uniform for another. And that really spoke to me because I retired at age 34 and I had to start the next chapter in my life. What Quick Lane Tire and Auto Center has done now, they've gone to our U.S. military vets and understanding that when their term of service is up, it's a struggle for them to start the next chapter of their life. Last year, during the course of 2016, they came up with an idea to look at a bunch of different applicants. They awarded 5 $10,000 scholarships, and they passed those out at the Quick Lane Bowl back in December. These 5 people are starting their journey to become certified automotive technicians to start that next career, that next chapter in their life. So from a maintenance standpoint and the business model that they have to the trading in one uniform for another, it was a real easy decision for me to make. Their motto is ready to serve, and whether that's the community, from the business model that they provide, or the military vets and helping them start that next chapter of their life. I'm very, very proud, very, very honored to be working with Quick Lane here today.
That is great stuff. And my dad is always telling me to stay on top of my car maintenance. As
Absolutely.
You said, stay on top of it. Yeah. My dad is always telling me that.
You don't want that big repair down the road.
No. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome, Michaela.